Yeah.
Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
What's
Good,
up?
wonderful morning.
Something like that, yeah.
Let's see. Well, I got some interesting comic book news coming up. First off, for this week, sadly, we have to report that Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, recently passed away, which was unfortunate. So many prayers, good vibes, and stuff to his family. It's very unfortunate. Is it me, or is like this year in the comic community, it's almost like our version of 2017, when like 2017, all these celebrities and music just passed away. It's like all of our favorite voice actors, comic book artists are just dropping like flies. Damn. Hard to start the show off so negative, but
it's that Shinn woman again. Yeah, I know, right?
Absolutely.
Oh. Yeah, no, I
What's
get
up,
it.
Glenn? Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things. And then George Pacheco, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
He passed away. I think there was one other person I'm trying to remember. It was
the artist for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Kevin O'Neill. That was it.
Yeah.
I liked his artwork too. I'm like, that fucking sucks. So it is what it is. It's like it's kind of funny. It's like how things are, and they're like, I don't know. It's funny because like this is the place where people throw random bullshit around, like, oh, bad things come in threes and shit, and I'm like, I think like the older I get, the more about like conventional wisdom I get annoyed by, because nobody really like listens. You see what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, you can't like, oh yeah, just don't focus on that. Oh yeah, I don't like. No, it's just sort of like, unfortunately, these were these people's time to pass, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that, they should have or had that done, but it's just, it is what it is. Conroy was actually a surprise because they said he was passing away of cancer. But I was like, when I saw some pictures of him, he did look paler and thinner than usual. But I thought it was just him getting older,
Right.
I had no idea. So I felt kind of bad for him. I mean, apparently it was cancer. I have not heard what kind right now, but apparently it was really fast. So that kind of sucked.
Well, and with actors in Hollywood, like Chadwick Boseman, it's very hard to know when they're cutting weight for a role. Because remember when Dallas Buyers Club came out, everyone thought Jared Leto was really sick because he was losing all that weight to make him look like he was an AIDS victim. And so I
Matthew McConaughey too. Like he lost a lot of weight.
Right, for that role. And like they lost this incredible amount of weight, and it's like now, and people are like, oh, what's happening with them? And then you find out months later, oh, they're doing a film. So, of course, thank you, Glenn, for Kevin O'Neill. Absolutely. It was, so sometimes with actors, it's hard because you don't know when they're gaining weight or losing weight on purpose for roles to fit how the character is described in the screenplay. But it's definitely heartbreaking. And God bless them all and their family. Hopefully one day we will get a version of Kevin O'Neill's and Alan Moore's work that's a lot better than the Sean Connery movie that we got. For the Extraordinary Gentleman, because no offense, there's like maybe one scene in that entire movie that was cool, like how Hyde got turned into Hyde. Other than that, I hated that film. It put me to sleep. Like,
I heard it wasn't very good.
Oh no, they added a character that wasn't even in the book. They changed motivations. It was, I don't know. It was weird
because Mina Murray, she actually did not turn into a vampire at all. She was just bitten by Dracula.
Yeah.
Like, I think they were trying to go off the Bram Stoker one where, like, you had to have a pact with him or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I mean, I don't know. I know film adaptations change things because of whatever. Case in point, like another extreme change in films is like the movie Wanted. If you watch the movie Wanted and read Mark Millar's actual book, you would be like, dude, someone in Hollywood read a comic book and pitched their movie, said it's based off this comic book, and it's because they're completely different. Like, there is nothing the same about those two things. Let's see. Glenn says, I'm reprinting a Kevin O'Neill interview from a magazine, Crikey. Oh, fantastic.
Cool.
Comics Unlimited number 11 on sale on Amazon in a couple of days. Fantastic.
Oh, nice.
So check that out, you guys. So Glenn, who's been an awesome journalist and comic strip writer and all that, great dude. Check out his book, Crikey, and also Comics Unlimited. I mean, I don't know how Glenn does it, but he's always got these amazing interviews with these amazing artists. So definitely check them out. But yeah, like going back to the Hollywood comics thing, back in the day when they first started doing it, man, they were just bastardizing comics in film. It was so horrible. But as a comics fan, what are you going to do? That's what all we were getting. So I definitely.
Well, I mean, I remember how we rebrought Spawn again, and we were like going, that actually didn't age bad. And some parts were really cheesy, like all right, but it wasn't actually bad. Like some of the action sequences were cool, and some of the motif or the visual things were really still pretty cool. But I know what they mean. Are they still doing Spawn? I don't know if they are.
Oh no, they dropped new news about it. So Jamie Foxx is on board. The guys that wrote Deadpool, the first one, are on board. So it's shaping up to be a good movie. I mean, Todd has been plugging that film pretty hard. So I can't wait to see how that is all going to play out. I'm super excited because, as you know, I'm a huge Spawn fan. And thank you, by the way, for entertaining me that night to rewatching Spawn. Like, it's so funny because when you like bring out the old comic book movies, some people are like, I don't want to watch that. That's horrible. They'd rather watch the new ones. But some of the old comic book movies, I have an affinity love for them. I really do.
I'm sure there's like old Witchblade episodes because I remember watching it back in the day. It was pretty good. But I think, unfortunately, got cut short, which was a shame. That was kind of beyond their control on that level.
Oh, yes. And hopefully, the actress, she did end up going to rehab for all that, right? Like for her.
I think so. It was alcoholism, and it was really bad, apparently. But yeah, that's what kind of, from what I understand, stopped it, was because, I mean, it's on Wiki, so I'm guessing that's what happened. Is that, I mean, Wiki may not be always accurate, but it's a general factoid link of things. Hey, Quentin, what's up? So,
Demon chicken.
Right. So it's just. I'm just kind of like going, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of wondering if they would redo Witchblade again, but I think they might be thinking about it. I don't know.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I like the anime. The anime was pretty good for the voice acting. And usually I don't care for anime. I know, big shocker, but yeah, I thought the anime was good. And the show was, you're right. Like, I remember around that time, I was working construction, and I would come home and I'd watch it, and then I'd switch over to WWF at the time and watch that. And I remember, like, watching it on a specific day, and then all of a sudden the show just stopped, and it was something else. It was very weird. It's like it abruptly stopped. So I'm thinking about trying to see if I can find the DVD series on Amazon, and maybe we can do like a watch party.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. What else was I going to talk about? So the con that you're going to, explain that one to me, because that's the first time I was hearing about it, and let's hopefully give them a little plug-in for anyone that may want to go and get some tickets.
My friend Frank Forte, he's going down to DesignerCon. I might hit DesignerCon. I don't know this Sunday. I'm not going to go as exhibitor. I'm going to go as an attendee possibly. So I'll see how it is. It's nothing set in stone yet, but I might just head on down and do something with that. So
What's
I
up,
mean,
Quinn?
that's pretty much it. But Designer Con is just like individual toys. Like they're not like toys like, oh, Barbie dolls or something like that, but they're actual like collectibles, like vinyl collectibles, vinyl like whatever, statues, things like that.
Oh, dude, that sounds sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then they have people that do dark art to people that do other things, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, where's it at this weekend? Is
It's
it
in
LA,
Anaheim.
San Diego?
It's in the
Anaheim.
Anaheim Convention Center, you know, where they have WonderCon. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not saying that decisively or right now, but that's what I'm doing right now. So
No,
that's
dude,
one of the things. But I'll be at Wicked City. I'll give you the link up here. Wicked City over in Malicious Con, over in Adults Only. No, it's not a titty bar. It's an actual bar. And
nice disclaimer.
yeah, you can get tickets. Just say Christie Shinn or something, and I'll give you my link tree too on this while we're at it. But yeah, go and check it out, guys.
There you guys go. This Sunday we got in Anaheim. We got Designer Con, and then Christie's got a new one called what is it called again?
Which one?
The one you're going to, that's in your link tree that the viewers can order tickets.
Yeah, it's this Saturday evening and afternoon/evening, and it's Tixar basically.
Okay, Tixar. There you guys go. So
Tixar.
So click on Christie's link in her link tree and get the information and buy your tickets. Use your promo code, man. These shows. Check this out. The reason why I'm today I'm really focusing on promoting these shows and other people's work is because of the fact that as creatives, we all need like these platforms to be heard about, to be seen, so that when they grow, people that really depend on making money from this stuff can, because it's every bit of advertising helps. Not everyone can afford to go to San Diego Comic-Con. Great. Go to Designer Con. Go check it out and have a fun experience. Or, hey, you can't go to Comic-Con New York? Fine. Go to the show this Saturday and use, Christie's promo code and just check it out, that way you can have fun and, get to meet some really creative people that maybe you might even have a project and you'll see them at Artist Alley or Creators Alley or Independent Press, who knows, and link up and, get your stuff out there, So
I even have a 10% off on Goth Mall right now. If you order any of the apparel, if you go ahead and use Horatory Studios on that, you get 10% off. And that's also on my link tree. It basically will illustrate, like, if you guys like, oh, I can't remember all of it, well, it'll say it on my links too.
Titty bar reminds me of From Dusk Till Dawn scene.
It's weird in America, but the titty bar, they just show their tits. You can serve alcohol, but if it's a strip club, they cannot serve alcohol. At least in California, they can't. I think that's
yeah. So no, okay. So I always found that fascinating. Because there was a time where a friend of mine's like, hey, come be a bouncer at the bar I work at. And when I first came back from the Army, and I was like, yeah, maybe not. And they're like, come on, it's a titty bar. They serve alcohol. You'll get a free shot of whiskey and a beer after work. And then another one said, no, come work be a bouncer where I'm at. It's a strip club. And I found out they can only serve beer and wine. And I was like, why is that? And apparently, because from what I understand, the way my buddy told me is, both my buddies from the Army told me, it was, liquor usually tends to make people more aggressive, and it's more about protecting the performers. So I kind of get it. The more exposed the woman is,
by that too.
The more exposed the woman is, the more people kind of, lose all inhibitions. Apparently, personally, I just like we need to start teaching people how to control their alcohol, like but whatever.
Bet on your
I
house
think
on Christie to bring the tone down. Everybody bets on me. It's really funny. I don't think I was delivered, so there you go.
There we go. Oh man, that's too funny. On more related news, so I finally got to check out Werewolf by Night, which made me want to reread Werewolf by Night. I thought that comic short film was fantastic. I really did. Watched it, and it was nice to see them play with characters that normal mainstream fans don't know about, but like the more hardcore fans know about. Like saying Man-Thing was fantastic, and the fact that they made him a character that you can't really understand except for Werewolf by Night because he's part werewolf. I thought that was fantastic. I was just like, yes. But did you get to see it yet or no?
Werewolf by Night? No, I haven't actually. I don't think I've seen Werewolf. I've seen American Werewolf in London. I've seen American Werewolf in Paris, but I haven't seen anything else other than that.
Gotcha. Okay, so in moving, since you didn't get to see that one, let's talk about Slumberland, because I just found out. I didn't know Slumberland was a New Zealand comic strip before it was a Netflix movie. I had no idea. So when I found that out,
anime too. It was an anime and a manga too, as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know which one came first. I don't know if the strip came first, New Zealand, or the manga and anime. I don't know. But what did you like about the movie? Is there anything you didn't like about it? Because I know you got to go see the premiere, which I'm jealous of, by the way.
Oh well, yeah,
super jealous.
I'd say like the thing is that it was actually really tough. I actually really, when I went into seeing a movie, is that a lot of times it's very hard for a movie to impress me. I don't go into it thinking, oh, it's going to suck. No, that's kind of unfair. I just kind of didn't have any expectations. I thought, oh, this is going to be kind of a fun movie for kids. But it dealt with some really deep subjects and really deep things. And it was kind of really crazy. So, it's just kind of weird. It's like, it's just like it really dealt with things about people being not happy where they're in the waking world, so they escape to dreams. One of the characters in this movie, it's interesting how if you lose that part of yourself, you lose that part of connecting. I don't want to spoil it for people because it'll be coming out in the next couple of days and you can catch it on Netflix. It also dealt with like heavy subjects as death, especially a death of a parent. Now that was kind of really crazy about that too. So I'm kind of thinking to myself that it's actually a very, as people say, well, it's like kind of a scary one, it's like deals with death. It's like, at some point kids need to learn about death. It's just how you teach them. And so it was kind of funny because like they dealt with the uncle that had to adopt her because she had no other family. Her mom had died prior to that. And so the father was lost at sea.
Cheers, Quentin.
And it was sad because you can relate to him on that level because he had kind of lost a piece of himself. And yes, he was boring. He was a doorknob salesman. They took the most boring job or the most unexciting job, and they did that. But it was interesting how she transferred everything from real life. Like if she took things from the real life, like a pair of keys, she would go and take it with her into the dream world in the backpack. Like it was just basically constructs of your mind, basically taking into real world things. Like she would actually take in a red string and all this stuff, but yet find it but it would be in the dream world, which sort of makes sense. Like stuff elements from your life are into the dream world or something. So that's kind of interesting in itself. So, but yeah, it just took the most basic mundane things. And you kind of felt bad for her uncle because you could tell his character was really trying to connect with her because they both lost somebody very important to them. He and his brother used to be very close, her father. And then, he got married and had a kid, went off, did his own life. And like the daughter doesn't know anything about him. So she's trying to connect, but she's a kid. So she kind of doesn't know how to on an adult level. And it was just sad. I mean, in some way it was kind of tragic because here's this guy who is really like, he actually like goes on Google to try to like find out good ways how to go and do parental tips. He gets a book. He tries to like mimic stuff off the book to try to go and relate to her. but he can't. But it's like it's hard. It kind of falls short, and she gets kind of frustrated with him too. And but he does care. I mean, it's kind of sad. So I mean, like there's this one point where she decides to sail, and she gets knocked unconscious because it's stormy weather. So he goes to find her, and he actually is out in the storm, but he doesn't know, like it's going beyond his comfort zone. So there you go.
Oh man, that sounds a lot like I Kill Giants. Like that entire book was about a young girl dealing with, someone dying and talking to the grief counselors, and she's using her imagination to conquer these big, giant, monstrous things. Because as kids, when we deal with life issues, it can be traumatic, it can be hard. And what was so cool about it is here's this little girl like thinking, she is this superhero. She puts on this mask to hunt down these big giant demons that are coming after her family, like the hardships of money, as they're paying for the hospital bills and can't afford food or the electric bill or whatever. And she's got like this giant, mallet and stuff. And I have to say this though, the comic book, great read, loved it to death. The movie kind of sped up the ideas to where you didn't get too much of that emotional investment, and which was kind of heartbreaking for me. It was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, I wish they would have done something a little bit better. To be honest, it was kind of like, dang, you guys had a solid chance to, really let this movie breathe. But then at the same time, I understand when creating a movie, you only get so much money. You can only raise so much money. And sometimes you can only raise, a budget like this big compared to what needs to happen, like a problem this big, so, which is unfortunate, but still, if anyone wants to check it out, I'd say go check out Slumberland and I Kill Giants. And
are you going to watch Slumberland yourself when it comes out?
Oh, absolutely. The way you explained it to me over the phone the last few days, I'm like, dude, I'm going to go see this damn movie. It sounds freaking awesome.
Let me know how it is, because what we talked about on the phone about it, you'll probably see what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't wait, because this is what I kind of want to do, is I kind of want to do a watch party with you, and us just, like, talk about it as it goes on, because I think that would be a lot of fun. But I'm going to wait. Before we do that, though, I'm going to wait for, make sure it's been out a few days, so that way everyone, if they decide to, to check out on this show and we do it, they don't, what was the word, like, we're not spoiling anything for them by any means.
Yeah, it's like, I watched the movie. It was a good movie, but I don't want to spoil it. It's like,
yeah,
can't spoil it right there.
Let's see. I know most people are going to hate me for these two movie reviews on comics, but I liked Black Adam a lot. I thought it was great. They definitely. I found it weird that they made ISIS. Oh, so they put ISIS in the movie of Black Adam, but she's not ISIS yet. But they made her brother, who becomes the other superhero. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they made him her son instead, which was fine, I guess. I was more like blown away by the opening scene when Black Adam comes out, because he literally rips off a dude's arm and beats him to death with it. Like, they went there. And I thought the movie was going to be like that the whole time, but then it went like the Marvel movie route, and which was kind of a little bit of a letdown. But overall, it was good. And then I finally got to see the Black Panther movie, and I'll say this about the Black Panther movie. Like I was sharing with you when I got to see it, the emotional investment from the actors venting out what happened with Chadwick Boseman, there was parts where it was like, dude, I didn't know if the actors or actresses were even acting at that point. It was like, it was good emotional feels. Like, dang, you know what I mean? And that those parts for me made the movie worth watching. The downside for me, I'm going to be honest, because Wakanda is such a iconic, fierce nation in the things, like the threat almost felt like a bee sting, like they were swatting a bee sting, and that was the only downside. It's like, okay.
I basically told you my perspective on it, and I was
Yeah.
kind of laughing how I couldn't believe how blatantly stupid that was. But I won't get
Hmm.
into it because everybody's going to think I'm attacking like the movie just because it's this movie.
Oh
It's like,
no.
no, I mean, I think they were kind of lazy with Namor, and they're like, well, how can you say that? It's like, first of all, he's supposed to be the winged serpent, right? That has nothing to do
Hmm.
with water. Maybe he
Hmm.
ushered in the rain god. And they're like, no, but it was this other iteration of him. I said, yes, but he still didn't do that. He was more of a
Yeah.
medicinal spirit, a wise man. It was more of he controlled the winds. It
Yeah.
wasn't. It didn't have anything to do with that. I mean, I actually took a quick look. Like I was kind of. I was kind of actually. See, I think personally, if they actually went with an actual water god or goddess, I think that would have been better. And I like there's one, and I'm probably destroying this name, but Chao Chu Hitle. I think Chao Chu Hitle. So there you go. If they got a Mexican water goddess, they should have gone with that
Mm.
because they would have hit the chicken points and they would have hit the accuracy points. But I think they were very lazy. They just pulled Quetzalcoatl out, which is Ikutle. I think that's how they would say the name. But
Yeah.
I am not versed in Mesoamerican languages, so please do not kill me, guys. But if they just went with that water goddess, I think that would have been cool, like empowering, like the water goddess watches over everything. And there were so many
Yeah.
allegories that I looked at in that movie, and I'm like, oh my god, you guys, really?
Yeah.
That's all I
Well,
have to say.
it's weird because everyone is so used to the Marvel movie being a huge hit. But if you look at Marvel's track record, like the number two film of every series that they make is always lackluster, which I find interesting. Like they can never do a proper sequel. The third movie always blows that out, out the water. But like
Yeah,
Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, no one really cared for it. Um, then you like Ant-Man and the Wasp, no one cared for it. Dark World with Thor, no one cared for it. Iron Man 2, no one cared for it. Like I don't know what it is about the sequel, the Marvel sequel, but it usually is a little lackluster. I don't know why number two in their little film franchises is always eh. Maybe they'll figure it out. I don't know, but the third movie's going to knock our socks off. I know that much.
yeah,
Usually the first and third are in the Marvel things are great. It's the number two is like, all right.
yeah, right. So I'm just kind of thinking to myself about this shit, and it's like I'm kind of laughing about it right now. As I said, it's just like when I saw that, and I had friends, like everybody I know is going like, "Oh, this movie's great. This movie's great. This movie's great." I'm like, there's a lot of allegories in here that I do not find favorable to anybody at this point. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was talking to my friends, and they're like, "Oh my god," and they were not happy with that because when I pointed that out, they said, "Oh yeah, you're right." But it's funny because many more people are noticing that and pointing that out, even though they may not be public about it. But I was just sitting there and I was just like, "You have all this money, Marvel, and you just fucking fucked up shit like so bad."
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's the Marvel sequel syndrome. Like the first one's great, the second one's and then the third one knocks it out the park. It's like I don't know what it is, but when it comes to the second movie in every Marvel franchise, it's like it's horrible. Which is probably why I'm thankful that we have not gotten a Thor 2 or not a Thor 2, but a Hulk 2 yet. A sequel to Edward Norton's Hulk movie because I'm kind of scared like maybe that one's going to put me to sleep.
Right.
And it's funny too because like um, you would think with all their writers and great directors and actors that they're able to pull in now, showing that these comic book movies are good, able to do great things. Why the first sequel is always so lackluster in every single one. Like especially I would expect it from the first phase of sequels because they were still kind of learning how this Marvel thing was going to work. But you think by now they would deliver a good sequel from the first movie, and now it's like nope, they still do the same formula. First movie great, second movie Third movie knocks it out the park. You know what I mean? Which is weird. So, I don't know. But a friend of mine told me it's probably because Marvel right now is unfortunately not paying the writers' union wage. So, because he even pointed out that Thor: Love and Thunder was kind of, wonky and dumb. And come to find out, let's see. From what I've heard, Ed Norton speaks very highly of you, Phil. Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it, boss.
Is it the Ed Norton or a different Ed Norton?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like, and my buddy was like, yeah, they're not paying the Writers Guild wage. They're only paying, so they're getting all the new writers trying to make it in Hollywood. So that could be why some of the current movies and TV shows came out kind of a miss for some folks. But who knows? We'll see. Let me go ahead and, to the top of the hours. I'm going to play one of the many advertisers that help keep the lights on so you guys can check out their podcast. It's Critical Blast. And go check them out. I gotta admit, man, all the commercials that our promoters put on and stuff, like the commercials they do are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
For especially the Gone Hunting one. I like playing that one because it's that one's like reminds me of like those old school like fire box from home local TV station commercials, and it reminds me of like going to my grandma's house and going up with my uncles and doing all that family camping stuff. It really does. I'm being honest. Gives me a nice nostalgic feel of being with family going camping and just having fun. But anywho, let's see what else in comic news that just came out. Frank Miller and Dan Dido are creating a new comic company. Did you hear about that?
I think I heard winds about that. What's that about?
So, for everyone that don't know, a few years ago, some allegations against Frank Miller came out, and so they were trying to cancel him, and apparently he did some bad stuff. But when it came to investigation to see if they were ever warranted, from what I understand, some of it didn't stick, and some of it was considered defamation. So again, not a lawyer, just going off of what the news was reporting, and because of it, and he was getting kicked out. Like apparently, out of comics and stuff, apparently Dan Dido and him started saying, "Screw that! We're just going to start our own comic company." So now they're going to be doing comics and trying to get creators in the door. See how it goes. I mean, this ain't the first time Frank Miller tried to get a comic book company off the ground, because he tried to do it with Legendary Comics as a deal with Legendary Pictures, and they were supposed to do a series of comics, but unfortunately Frank Miller did the most dumbest decision of all time, and he released Holy Terror, which he later apologized for, which was like a huge, misstep on his part, and everyone hated the comic. I remember getting the comic, and, aside from some friends that were the religion that he kind of attacked at the time, I felt for them. I understand why they were mad. But as a comic book fan, I was pissed. So I, as a friend of, of being a veteran who fought for religious freedom, we should never bash anyone's religion, number one. Number two, as a comic book fan, I was pissed when I opened up the middle of the comic book, and all he did was paint squares for 2 pages with no art. Like literally, he was that lazy. He just put
Are you
squares.
serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. I'll take a picture of it and send it to you. I was pissed. That's the reason why after that comic, I haven't really read anything Frank Miller has done, because I was just like, I'm not going to pay for someone who's just going to take my money and give me 2 pages of nothing but squares.
Yeah, that would anger me for a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, I gave his Superman a shot, because a friend of mine was like, "No, let's check it out. Let's get back into Superman." And I was like, "All right." And then when I read it, it was like it wasn't Superman. He made because Superman is supposed to be, this guy that seeks for truth, and he's always wanting to do the right thing, and violence is, not the main focus. Like a lot of people were upset with the Zack Snyder movie because Superman would have never snapped Zod's neck. Superman would have found a way to foil him and, throw him into like the Phantom Zone or something. And so I, reading the comic, and then I look at Frank Miller's Superman, he makes him a Navy SEAL, and you see Superman just like punching a dude's head off his shoulders. It's like, what the hell? Like, it's so not Superman, man. Like I get it. I mean, Frank Miller grew up in the 70s with, the dirty, hairy, tough guy. So if you ever look at his repertoire of comics, that's what he does. That's his motif, the dirty, hairy, tough guy. But that just doesn't work with Superman. I'm sorry.
Well, Superman's supposed to be a Boy Scout. Batman's supposed to be darker. And the thing is, like they say, oh, well, Superman never has killed anyone. I think he has, but he's very reluctant to. Even Batman is also reluctant to. Even though Batman doesn't have a nicer view of humanity than he does. It's one of those things that I find very interesting, because with Superman and Batman, I think it's interesting because they started off as kind of being friends in the 70s and 80s, or oh, we're double teaming. But then when it became to the 90s to 2000s, he viewed him with suspicion, because it was sort of like, you're pretty much all powerful. What if you go insane, or you go bonkers or something, or you become compromised? I have to watch you. So they became kind of frenemies. So I find it very interesting that how that's evolved. And I get it. You don't want to go and idealize every relationship that's known to man. But I think it's very interesting how they kind of dumb down Superman. Oh, if he's good, then he's a dumb fucking yokel idiot. I'm like, no, there's good people that are very smart. But I think this is a commentary on our society today. Remember, we have had discussions with it where good people are considered stupid. And we continue to feed into that by feeding people in general really toxic ideas. And I really hate the word toxic now because it's been so overused, but I'll have to say a forgiveness, reconciliation, things like that. And we make it so that there's all or nothing. And it's just really stupid to me. And I find that that's not the case. When we've had discussions about that, it's what I don't like is when they do shit like that. And then they say, well, how come I forgave and all this? And it just blew up in my face. I said, because forgiveness is not supposed to entail reconciliation. And sometimes forgiveness is not this fucking happy puppy thing. Sometimes you're just like, I can't be bothered with you anymore. And you just really energetically disconnect from the situation. And they never tell you, oh, okay, unless you are the fucking epitome of Buddha or Jesus, you're not going to forgive about things right away. It is a process. And there are times where it's very hard to, and sometimes you can still have a happy life and still be in process of forgiving. People think, oh, you got to be perfect. And it's funny because it's that is a problem that I've seen not only in the Christian community, and people say, oh, you're bashing Christians. No, I'm not, because I've seen it in almost every religion. Actually, all the other religions have gotten to be just as judgmental and shitty as they claim the Christian religion will. They have their own superstitions and bullshit and all that. And it's well, it's obviously not Christianity, guys. So you probably have to look at yourselves, kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I have an issue with. And sometimes people think, when I was just doing some books about Demon Bitch, and I was saying, oh yeah, she goes into church, immediately it's like, oh, it's provocative. But then, people kept going to me and saying stuff like, oh, she should go and cuss at the pastor and everything. I'm like, okay, no, that's an old tired trope. I think that's stupid. Yes, it's like, oh, she goes to church, but I want to throw something different at you guys. And again,
Right.
I don't want talking about books that I'm writing that much because I don't want to expend that energy out there. Hey, Frederick. But I do believe that it kind of annoys me being considered, it's not really bad, like a bad upbringing Joker. It depends on which version of Joker, Glenn. That's the thing. It's
Right.
like, because it's so different because there's different versions of Joker that you kind of don't know. Like there's the criminally insane version. They're all criminally insane, but like one's already criminally insane and sadistic. The other one, he became insane because he just got broken by his problems. The latter is actually much more sympathetic than the former. It depends on which one. That's the thing.
Yeah, because let's catch up with these people. I noticed that most old school actors play a villain in MCU. Actually, yes. And that's funny you mentioned that, Quentin. So most people don't know this, but that is actually an old school problem in Hollywood. In fact, Quentin Tarantino pointed that fact out in his film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where the guy that was Leonardo DiCaprio's character actually went from being the hero on TV to now getting his mouth punched out by the hero on TV. It's a great dialogue between him and I forget the other actor's name, not Robert De Niro, the other one, Al Pacino. Al Pacino and Leonardo DiCaprio have this dialogue, and it is actually an old school Hollywood trope. Those people do. Let's see, Glenn. Villains on film being forgiven instead of being considered evil, not really bad, just a bad upbringing. Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very, very true. I'll say this, Glenn, and for people that kind of notice that common trope. I understand why some writers are wanting to tell that story because the human condition is very complicated, right? Like for instance, I love being American. I have friends in the UK that love being British. I have friends in Australia that love being Australian, and we sometimes have different views of different things, and it's not necessarily one side is evil and whatever. But at the same time, Hitler was very much evil, and he needed to be stopped. So, yeah, exactly, Magneto. Which we understand. And I think that's the reason why we sometimes lean on to those sympathetic villains because it gives more depth to the character. But honestly, I don't think I would ever read a comic book or watch a movie where the Red Skull, who's obviously in love with Hitler, ever got forgiven. I hope Captain America kicks the crap out of him 100% of the time. I will watch that film like that, and I would not change anything else. Like characters like that just need to stay evil, in my opinion. Just being honest.
Well, you can also show the descent into evil without making them sympathetic.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I'm thinking too. And it's like, like, okay, they could have had a bad childhood or rough things. Like we've had experiences with people that have done that, but these people have been so fucking screwed up and they do so much harm to people that they have to go and just say, fuck you, just leave this planet kind of thing. Like the Red Skull is kind of one of those things. Like, I don't know about his upbringing, if it was semi-charmed or whatnot, but it's like, let's say if he had been beaten up by his dad every day, it's like, yeah, but you're a fucking Nazi that wanted to go kill a bunch of people. Fuck off, It still doesn't make you feel sympathetic,
Well, one thing I'm enjoying that DC has finally come out and done is the Joker is a moniker. He's made so many versions of himself by driving other people crazy and bleaching his skin. We don't know which one's the original anymore. And that there's possibly 10, 20 different versions of him. That's the reason why every writer's personality of it constantly changes. So I like that. I like the fact that the reason why, a new version that's just psychotically insane, and why they, every time he's thrown away at Arkham, he's able to escape, and things like that.
Well, it's funny. It's like you could say Hitler had a bum time as a kid. His father died when he was a boy, then his little brother. That didn't make him evil. He already was. Well, here's another commonality that I find with serial killers. And you know, I guess I could compare Hitler to a serial killer because he killed millions. But even though he did not directly shoot or gas them by his own hand, he didn't pull the lever, but he ordered people to. Like, but the thing about him is that he was a mama's boy. And it's one thing if a man loves and respects his mother. I'm not saying that's a mama's boy, but a guy that's excessively tied to their mother to a point where because apparently she was the defense against his father, who tended to be, I think, physically abusive and very authoritarian. Right. And what I find very interesting with him is that he was a mama's boy, and so was Ted. I think Ted Bundy was. No, it was either Ted Bundy or Manson. But it was weird because he slept in the same bed with his mom until he was 12, which was weird. Like, they would do weird little abnormal things that was sort of like to behavior. And it was like excessive bedwetting. I'm not saying every time your kid bedwets something, they're going to be a serial killer. No, it's like a certain pattern of behavior that seems innocuous at the time or annoying. And yeah, I mean, not all mama's boys kill 20 million people. We have to argue that too. Like, there's got to be a certain level. Obviously, there's triggers where he went to become the horrible person he was. But I'm just saying there's certain same things, Glenn. So again, this is not excusing the evil. Like, yes, I agree. Not all mama's boys are going to go kill 20 million people. Obviously not. Like Stalin, like he came up from I think he came from a peasant background, but I don't know about his background as much, but he ended up killing about, I think, 50 million people. It's him or Mao ended up killing 50 million people.
Oh, Mao. Hello, beautiful people. Nice to see you. How you doing,
so I'm not
Keisha?
arguing against like that these guys are evil. It's just they sometimes share a commonality of a similar sort of blueprint. But it does not mean like everybody who has these characteristics will turn evil. I mean, sorry to interrupt. I mean, like kind of like with well, there's that too. It's like he just, and also the thing is the established bent of anti-Semitism in Europe kind of helped with that, because people said, oh, there wasn't really anti-Semitism until Hitler. Said, no, there was in Europe. Every 70 years they would have a pogrom and kill a bunch of Jewish people just because, you know, they whatever reason, it was like a plague, bad harvest, whatever, or just because. Every 70 years they do it. So 77 years, every 7 years.
You know, it's funny, since we're on the topic of this, and we've been talking about movies, and we've been talking about in comic book movies specifically, this is what I'm finding interesting. On Amazon Prime, there is a TV show that's great. It's called The Last Mogul. And apparently before World War II really took effect, Germany at the time was the market that we wanted our films to go into. And it was the Nazi Party just took over. And it's kind of like how the situation with China is. We are so willing to please China that we will obey their rules. And it literally mimics what's happening in Hollywood today. Like, because The Rock wouldn't change certain things about the Black Adam movie, it's not going to go to China to make $1 billion. It's just not. And then when I was watching that TV show and they were talking about it, like the Germans came over, like Wyndham was like, hey, this story about your wife that you're trying to make a movie, we're not going to do it because it has a Jewish name. It won't come into our market. And it makes him mad. And they were like, oh, and her brother who's writing the screenplay, you have to change his name. So, you know what I mean? Like, they were trying, and you saw that a lot. And it made me think, like, how many of these movies that we make are doing that for the China audience, because they have a different mentality than us. And some of it I highly disagree with. I really do. Like, for instance, the Star Wars. The black actor, like, they just took him off the poster. For Black Panther, they hid the black actor's face underneath a helmet to advertise over to China, which is horrible. And the fact that The Rock didn't allow that game to be played with Black Adam, dude, I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. Jack Kirby changed his name to be not Jewish. Yeah, that's true. A lot of
Stan did that too. I think
all of them did. All of them did. Every single Jewish creator changed their names to the pen names to hide the fact that they were Jewish because of the Semitism in the popular mediums at the time. A lot of people don't know this, but even some directors that were once Jewish changed their names, sadly. That's the reason why I said that's the reason why superheroes have secret identities. Most people don't know that. That came out of Jewish Americans hiding the fact that they were Jewish, changing their names, and living an American life to make family, and then living their Jewish life at home. That's exactly why a lot of superheroes have secret identities. A lot of European countries threw the Jewish people out. It was mostly to do with money because they traded between the East and the West. Yeah, and it's crazy how we, unfortunately, keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Whoever makes the most money, we listen to, sadly. So, but back on topic with comic book movies and such for this episode. In recent years, in the last 5 years, which comic book movie do you think was the most impressive? That everyone was just like, it was a shock that it did so well. You think?
Oh shit! I'm just trying to think because I haven't really watched too many comic book movies per se. I've been kind of like bad with movies. I guess maybe Captain America. People really were impressed by Captain America. I think the Scarlet Witch ones, I think, really wowed people, like in general, because of WandaVision. And then, even though people weren't really into the number 2, not Endgame, what was it? The number 2 one. It had James Spader in it. It was what was the character he played?
Ultron?
Ultron.
Yeah. Ultron? Yeah.
Yeah, like even though Age of Ultron was kind of meh, it kind of set it up for one. This is what I think is kind of interesting about Marvel movies, but I think only Disney has the budget to do this. Even though the movie's meh, they'll jump it off into another successful movie. So it kind of makes up for it, or it's a wash or 50-50. I would say probably, Black Panther was probably pretty good because I from what I heard of Wakanda, it didn't look Wakanda Forever, I think, story-wise, aside from the grieving of Chadwick Boseman, and again, I'm not disrespecting the guy, but the movie didn't seem like it really held up after that, from what I've heard from people. But Black Panther was like the shit, and I heard it was the shit, like it was cool. But let's see, I don't know about Shang-Chi. I think he was okay, I heard. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God. Like, I think personally, I keep saying this to people, is like, do fucking Psylocke, because that actually has a character change. It's a fake out almost if you play it right. Like, and I started joking about that on a panel. I think they were shocked that I said that, but whatever, fuck it. Somebody has to say it. So, but Captain America, like the starting movies, I think the starting ones were good. Like Iron Man, you had Thor, and even Thor was kind of lackadaisical. And I was kind of laughing at Thor because they made some things. Like with Thor, they made the whole like Norse gods like multicultural, and people were like, oh well, like that was okay. I said no. Like the thing is, people, if you look at their mythologies, they're going to pattern their gods over the actual ethnicity of their own country. I mean, that's kind of a common thing. Like in Mesoamerica, would you have a white dude unless he was like somebody totally different, or a black dude? Like at that time, people could not travel as easily, so it's like you were pretty much in a homogenized ethnic world. And again, it's not like that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that at that time, you have to look at it in context. So we were kind of laughing at Thor because it was like, oh, the Northmen and Heimdall. Okay, so here's a joke about Heimdall, guys. Okay, so Idris Elba, great actor. I think he's wonderfully qualified, right? I just thought it was fucking hilarious that he played Heimdall. You know why? Because if you look at the background of the character, you know what he's called in Norse mythology? The whitest and most purest god in the universe.
Oh my God.
And I started laughing so hard. I was just laughing my ass off because it's like, this is the original Norse mythology. That's why it's like, I'm critical of Namor, because it's not because they changed him into a Mesoamerican, demigod. I guess Submariner is supposed to be a demigod. He's immortal, I think, right? He's been around for ages. So what I think is funny is that they should have made him into they should have made a water goddess his patron or something.
Yeah.
So that is, oh my God. I want to see Matt Damon play Black Panther. That would be fair in today's screwed up world. It makes me think of Team America World Police and his character. So now it's like I'm terrible now there too. But the thing is that if they had to make a Mesoamerican water god or a demigod, they should have went with a Mesoamerican water goddess, because that's the only one I could find. A quick quick look online would have been good.
Yeah.
But they made him in Quetzalcoatl or Ikuklikuktak. I'm sorry if I'm ruining the name, but he's a syncretization of Quetzalcoatl. And the fact that didn't really work. I mean, I know the headdress is fucking impressive. She had corn braids or some shit. Like, that was her headdress. It had corn on it because she brought in the water that would have the corn.
Right, because it was, well, I mean, today we still do it.
Yeah.
Like, when I was traveling around the world, and I was stationed in Korea, in Japan, and Thailand, all the Christian churches, like, Jesus was Korean, or Jesus was Thai, or Jesus was Japanese. Like, we still, I find that interesting when it comes to world religions. Whatever our culture is at the time, that's who we make our gods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of think, in a way, that's what we're doing with the Marvel films, because it's American mythology, 100%. It's American mythology.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it made sense. Okay, for all intents and purposes. Okay, for DC.
Right.
Normally, they would have Aquaman as the golden boy. He was like, he was supposed to be after like an Olympic swimmer. When you really think about it, that's what he's supposed to look like, right? Golden hair and all this stuff. They decided to update his look. I said, okay, if he made him Viking, they kind of make him look Viking-ish, with a hook. I didn't know what the fuck they were going with that. I didn't really look at it. But what I think they did, what was just smart, was they took Jason Momoa, who was like at least part Pacific Islander or Samoan, right? And they made him into Aquaman with all the aquatic tats and shit. So the fact is that his casting sort of made sense. This is based off of people that are waterborne. They're, even though this is supposed to be Atlantis and all this other shit, but you get what I mean. It's like, I'm kind of at this point now where it's like, at least make this shit have sense. And I don't like the fact that they don't have sense. It's on this. They just say, oh, let me just do this random thing. It's like, okay, make it make sense. I don't have a problem with you switching it around, but please make it have sense. And with that being said, I have to jump on my show. You going to see you in a bit?
Yep.
So,
all right, people. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And thank you for swinging by. Later.